My legs get weak. My hands start to sweat. If I have to give a speech, I just practice it and get it over with and get out of there.
Whenever I have to get up and talk in front of people, which I try not to do as much as possible.
I usually get in one position and just stand there and try to look straight ahead.
Even the presentations at work amongst my peers, you know, even people that I know, I still get nervous.
And then the night before, I'll usually, sometimes I'll get insomnia just thinking about my performance next day or my presentation.
All that nervousness comes over me in the moment when the room gets real still and quiet. You know, that's when it all kind of becomes overwhelming.
I avoid giving speeches at all costs.
In a well-known study, 3,000 people were asked what terrified them the most. Got a lot of different answers: bugs, heights, dying. But the #1 answer was public speaking. There's something about getting up and talking in front of a group of people that makes us crazy. And yet, speaking to other people is the most natural thing in the world.
It's so good to see you.
For enriching our personal lives.
Well, I wouldn't miss it for the world. In fact, my plane just came in last night.
Running a business.
Now, someone will be coming in, they'll set up the system, show us how it operates.
Or inspiring a nation.
I have a dream.
The ability to speak well has been viewed as a leadership quality throughout history. Legend has it that in ancient Greece, a great orator called Demosthenes trained himself by shouting against the sea with a mouthful of pebbles. No, I don't recommend this method unless you have a really great dental plan. Instead, let's explore some of the factors that determine how well we communicate and learn some simple and reliable techniques that can help us be more comfortable in front of people and at the same time communicate our ideas more effectively, whether to 1 or 1,000. Let's start by looking at 4 main components of public speaking. Mental, your thoughts and feelings about speaking. Visual, your physical appearance and body language. Vocal, the way you use your voice. And finally, verbal, the words you say. The first, and in some ways the most challenging thing to deal with, is mental. We're all familiar with the symptoms of stage fright. Pounding heart, dry mouth, sweaty palms, heavy breathing. It helps to acknowledge that whatever the message we want to communicate, the first message we actually convey is, this is me. We put ourselves in the center of attention and feel exposed and vulnerable and maybe a little threatened. You know those butterflies in your stomach? They hatch in your mind.
Okay, Steve, you're up.
Much of stage fright has to do with performance anxiety, the fear that we're not going to do a good job, that we're going to let people down and embarrass ourselves. Of course, that's not unique to public speaking. Athletes have to deal with this kind of mental pressure all the time. They overcome it by training until they're well prepared and focusing their minds on the job at hand. The same techniques work for speakers. Let me give you some training tips.
I want you to meet my friend Shelley.
Start by realizing that you're already a public speaker.
I'm going to introduce her to the company tomorrow. She's going to be joining us.
You speak to people all day long, and the same basic things go into communicating effectively, whether to just a few or a large audience.
We've been friends for a very long time, and I'm sure she's going to be an asset to the company. Shelley.
Talking with friends is easy because we've stopped being self-conscious.
So, they discover the body and you know who the murderer is, right? Yeah. Wrong. Turns out the murderer is someone totally unexpected.
Oh, great.
I'm not going to give it away.
Oh, that's great.
I really think y'all should.
I have to see this.
We can develop the ability to feel at ease in front of business associates, customers, or strangers. And that ability not only makes us more comfortable, but also actually makes our audience more receptive.
What happens when a customer feels that he's received poor service? Does the customer tell you so you can do something about it? No. He tells his friends so that they won't buy from you. Now, we can change all that.
Sure, we feel more confident and comfortable about something after we've had the experience of being successful at it. But what can you do before you've had the opportunity to gain all that positive experience? You can use your mind to simulate the experience. It's called mental imaging, and here's how it works. Just relax and imagine yourself feeling well prepared and confident. All right, now keeping that same feeling, see yourself giving that talk.
I might not have been so patient. But for him, catching a fish would have spoiled his day.
Picture your audience being interested in what you have to say.
Feel of the grass, the sound of the water, and the thrill of doing nothing at all. Thank you.
You deliver your talk in a natural, effective way, and you're a smash.
Yeah, hey, we knew you could do it.
Really? You think I was that good? Are you going to share that with me, too? No, he doesn't want to share.
Finally, remember to plan some kind of reward for yourself. This will help to remind you that you are going to survive.
I'm going to try some of this pizza.
Mental rehearsal can help boost your confidence and make speaking easier when the time comes. Also realize that a certain amount of nerves or excitement can actually work for you, bringing a sense of excitement to your speech. The rest is training, learning and practicing the communication skills we're about to discuss. But first, try something with me. Place your right hand up in the air like this. Good, really do it. Okay, now make a circle with your thumb and forefinger, and very carefully, while continuing to keep the circle, place it on your chin. All right, how many of you placed your hand on your chin, which is what I asked you to do, and how many placed it on your cheek, which is what I showed you? If you touched your cheek, don't feel foolish. You're in the majority. Most people are more influenced by what they see than by the words they hear. In fact, in a study about trust and believability in communication, Dr. Albert Mehrabian of UCLA concluded that only 7% of our believability with an audience comes from the words we speak, while 38% comes from our vocal qualities, and an amazing 55% of our impact comes from our visual characteristics. And that brings us to communication factor number 2, the visual component.
Good evening. The television...
The 1960 presidential debates between John Kennedy and Richard Nixon are an excellent example of how the visual component, facial expressions, gestures, clothing, and posture can either help us get our message across or prevent people from getting our message. The debates were the first ever to be televised, and an interesting thing happened.
But let's not put it there. Let's put it in terms of the average family.
People who heard it on the radio felt that Nixon won the debate.
But, good as this record is, it isn't enough.
And I think in the final analysis, it depends upon what we do here.
But those who saw it on TV said that Kennedy won. Kennedy's visual qualities, his apparent ease, his attire, his eye contact, made a stronger impression than anything the candidates were actually saying.
One road or another that you will be a successful president.
These lessons in how believability is communicated have influenced every political race since. And they are just as true for us today. There are several techniques we can use to make our appearance work for us. Thank you, sir. But it's important to remember that our objective is not to cover up who we really are. We want to enhance our "this is me" message and smooth the way for the audience to pay attention to and accept the words we've come to say. So let's start with one of the easier elements to control: clothing and grooming.
Okay, see, what I'm getting at is it's really all about trends. You know, Dow goes up, the Dow goes down.
The key here is simply to be appropriate for your audience and message.
You want to buy low, sell high. It's really kind of a simple game when you think about it.
But I
Avoid clothing, makeup, hairstyles, or jewelry that distract from you and your message.
forth in a more profitable direction. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it depends on what you're going to use it for.
What do you mean?
In our culture, eye contact is one of the most important elements of nonverbal communication. The right amount tends to convey honesty and friendliness. It involves the listener in what you're saying.
Yeah.
But in front of a group, a lot of speakers just don't know where to look. Here we have the wanderer.
I'm prepared.
This speaker creates the impression that they lack confidence in themselves or in what they're saying.
My mom is proud of.
We call this one the triangle. This speaker picks 3 people in the audience. Now, that's fine for those people, but it makes the rest of us feel left out.
Chromatic, augmented, and diminished.
My wife and I got a small model, came back with a small model of the Empire State Building.
Then there's the ostrich.
And then
they might as well pass out copies of their speech for all the rapport they build.
Really enjoyed that. Then we went to the Philippines, and now we have something like 12 cases of manila envelope.
But the good news is, of all the risk factors of heart disease, there are only two.
Next time you speak before a group, try maintaining eye contact with one person for 4 to 6 seconds, then move on to another person for a similar amount of time.
Such as smoking, lack of exercise.
Then on to another, and so on. This helps to create an intimate environment and draws the attention of everyone in your audience.
A healthier lifestyle can mean a healthier and longer life.
Body language is also a powerful tool. Posture, gestures, and facial expressions can heighten the effect of your words and give your presentation flavors and textures that words alone cannot. Hand gestures are kind of the punctuation marks of body language, but people who are uncomfortable about public speaking often become very self-conscious about their hands and
This type of breed has folded ears, hence the name Scottish Fold.
Many speakers lock them up in one position or repeat one motion over and over in a way that seems stiff, artificial, or just distracting. Some of these gestures are not inherently bad, any more than any one punctuation mark is wrong. But rather than illustrating and emphasizing your words,
I'm not sure what it is.
they could end up distracting and detracting from your message.
Whether you are selling merchandise or yourself, you have got to commit to the selling. So, let's get out there and sell. Bye-bye.
It's not just your hands either, it's your whole body. Plant your feet, look them in the eye, be comfortable, they're your friends. Then you're free to gesture, even take a few steps. Skip if you must. I'm kidding. It all comes with practice. And speaking of practice, the finest music ever written can be excruciating when played poorly. How well you play your instrument, your voice, plays a large role in determining how well your audience receives your message. And that's our third communication factor, the vocal component. Not what you're saying, but the way you say it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Even those of us who don't mind speaking in front of groups may lack good vocal qualities.
criminal, such a heinous crime.
As the speaker, you may understand what you're saying, but garbled words, rushed speech, and uneven volume can have an irritating effect on the listener. And, of course, your audience can't go along with your ideas if they can't understand them.
Well, I can't find any real reason.
My rafting trip down the Amazon was the most exciting adventure of my life. Adrenaline surged through my veins like the raging torrent upon which I rode.
A monotonous delivery quickly grows tiresome. If you're interested in your subject, let it show through your voice.
As our fragile craft pitched and tossed among the razor-toothed crocodile.
I want to thank, wow, thanks.
Being well prepared and well rehearsed will go a long way toward avoiding this problem. If you're saying, you're really just killing time. So remember, there's nothing wrong with a little silence now and then. While you think of the next thing to say. With the increasing use of video in organizations these days, any one of us is liable to find ourselves on TV. Don't be nervous. Here's a few things to keep in mind to make the best visual and vocal impression. Bright red tends to bleed. Also, large areas of white or black can cause problems. As you can see, certain designs can cause problems on TV and possibly in your life. So avoid tight stripes, checks, and other patterns. Can I keep this, please? Okay, now let's turn to the fourth and final element of effective speaking, words, the verbal component. Keep your purpose in mind. What is the outcome you're intending? Is it to inspire, to motivate, to persuade? As attractive as you make your visual and vocal package, it's, after all, what's inside the package that you want the audience to hear. You.
Look, on our team, if our ship hits an iceberg, I want people that are going to bail water and paddle like crazy.
Use words to create pictures and stories to create involvement. The more vividly we use language, the more effectively we communicate our ideas.
I am, to say the least, disinclined to vituperate those...
Make your words as appropriate as you would your appearance. Keep language simple and direct. Don't forget to use words that are understandable and appropriate to your audience.
And while I do echo Cicero, viver est cogitare, is it not veracious ipso facto that indulgence serves more to obfuscate than elucidate? Well, I could say it's just about time for a nap, so we'll take a quick nap, and then after that we'll go straight to coloring.
No.
Try to avoid getting lost on tangents by focusing on the purpose of your talk.
Anyone interested in the American Revolution should visit Philadelphia. Oh, I remember my first trip there. The Fifth Dimension was giving a concert. You remember them. Up, up and away in my beautiful balloon. I took a balloon ride once. It was up in Maine. We had to be there at the crack of dawn. Oh, let me tell you, the only things singing at that time of the morning are the birds. Have you ever owned a bird?
Robert Burns, the Scottish poet, wished for the power to see ourselves as others see us. It would from many a blunder free us. 2 centuries later, his wish has come true.
So, in conclusion, when making a cheese souffle, it's very important to consider the cheese.
The video camera is a great tool for spotting and correcting mistakes.
Make a souffle that's appealing to the whole public. No.
But there's really no substitute for getting up and speaking in front of others. Fortunately, there are many workshops and seminars where you have the opportunity to work on presentation skills, see yourself on video, and receive helpful feedback.
I work with a lot of different people, a lot of different companies, do a lot of different types of jobs at work, actually.
These people were taped at the start of a 2-day video workshop.
Over the phone.
And they were taped again at the end of the workshop.
They pull the chute on you, dead silence. And you're up there with the birds.
My work basically involves just working on budgets for films and a lot of accounting and that kind of thing. And let's see, and flames shot up through the hood, and this big paint bubble formed on the hood, and I just jumped out of the car. And fortunately enough, there was an oxygen delivery truck.
And had some very nice success with that. It was just something that I experimented with in a residential facility for problem teenagers. Okay, so picture this. My little chunky 1-year-old nephew sitting there in his stroller. Here's the basketball hoop. Kid is in love with basketball. Just loves it, but he hasn't even walked yet.
Welcome, Virginia Rodriguez.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests.
There are also clubs and organizations which meet on an ongoing basis. Toastmasters International is one of the oldest and best known. There you receive training, have the opportunity to make speeches, and be critiqued by your peers.
Other hospitals.
The thing that you have to keep in your mind is, what is the idea? What is the single thought? What is it you want your audience to come away with? And if you can focus on that one idea and get excited about that idea, the energy will flow.
No one knows more about the relationship between speaking skills and confidence than Terrence McCann. He is a former Olympic athlete, the executive director of Toastmasters International, and an accomplished public speaker. But he didn't start out that way.
When someone wins a gold medal in the Olympics, things happen to them, things that you never expect. Everybody in your city wants to hear the story. They want to know all about the Olympics. I remember very vividly I was invited to speak to the Tulsa Lions Club. And I had never given a public speech before. And I was absolutely terrified. And it was there that I realized that if you're going to be successful in anything in life, you had better become a good communicator. Through practice, stage fright is controlled. And you have to put in the hours and try every little technique, every little thing that you've learned or you've seen other speakers use in order to communicate so that the audience is with you.
Putting your communication skills into practice is the most important thing you can do to build the confidence that's essential to being a really effective speaker. So look for opportunities to participate in conversations and to speak before groups of people. Because the more you do it, the better you'll become. And the better your skills get, the more confidence you'll feel.
Brenda.
Start by giving yourself credit for the public speaking you already do. Remember that the same basic things go into effective speaking, whether to a few or a large audience.
Shelly.
Being well prepared for your talk will help you feel more relaxed and confident. Try mental imaging.
Well, your job is...
Remember that the visual component determines much of our impact on an audience.
Oh, so hot.
As the economic...
Make clothing and grooming appropriate for the audience and the occasion.
You don't need as much...
Use a comfortable amount of eye contact to build rapport.
Number crunching.
Keep posture and gestures natural.
Adrenaline
Use your
surge
voice in a way that conveys interest in what you say.
upon which I rode.
If our ship
Use stories and word pictures to create interest and involvement.
paddle like crazy.
Well,
Match your choice of words to your audience.
Viver est cogitare.
Focus on your purpose and stay on track.
Away in my beautiful balloon.
And finally, practice and participate. Get as much experience as you can to create an upward spiral of improving skills and confidence. Whether you want to inform, motivate, entertain, or simply convey a favorable impression of yourself, the ability to speak effectively is one of the most valuable tools you can have. Practice the techniques we've been discussing, and you'll see your skills and confidence improve. Otherwise, well, so is the pebbles. Nah, what am I, kidding? Forget the pebbles.
I avoided speaking like the plague. I was deathly afraid to stand in front of a group, and I assumed that those who could do it were anointed. I began to make speeches about things I really believed in, and I realized people were listening to me and reacting to me, which I found very exciting.
Preparation of material is a key thing because you feel more comfortable and confident about what you know about.
I learned the value of how you deliver a speech, the value of stories within the context of the speech, the value of your appearance, your gestures, of course, what to do with your hands. I mean, there were so many things that I'm still learning about.
I do like participating, and I do get nervous, but it's a more controlled nervous, and that, for me, is a great accomplishment.
At the end of the process of giving so many speeches, preparing them, delivering them, getting feedback, you're going to get a really strong sense of your style and then be able to develop your style and what works for you.